Hi, everyone. I'm Heidi Pendergast, the Oregon Director of the Healing Advocacy Fund. This is the community update on the Oregon Psilocybin Services Program Improvement Bill. This webinar is a re-recording of the webinar we did just a couple days ago. We had some technical issues, so I'm re-recording the presentation portion to be able to share out with the larger community. So what we'll do today is we'll do a brief overview of who the Healing Advocacy Fund is, why we're doing a program improvement bill, the components of the bill, the timeline, and then a Q&A, which won't be recorded on this portion. Apologies, but I'll answer some of the most common questions that came up as part of the presentation. The Healing Advocacy Fund is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit organization based in both Oregon and Colorado. And our mission is to protect and expand safe, affordable, state-regulated access to psychedelic healing for all who stand to benefit. We work closely with stakeholders on the ground, a lot of whom informed this bill and this presentation today. So thank you for your collaboration. Let's go to the next slide. So this bill really came together over quite a long period of time. Over the past year, we've been having community conversations with licensed healthcare providers sitting outside of the psilocybin services program. Many of those providers wanting to become involved, but because of some of the issues with the current program, they haven't been able to. We've also been learning a lot from Colorado's program. They have a pretty hefty dual licensure program and overlap with the behavioral health and medical community. And so our team in Colorado has been sharing their best practices, and we've been learning from them to pull into the Oregon program. Next, we've been soliciting input from service center owners and operators and directly from facilitators around what's working, what's not working. We host a monthly licensed service center group. If any of you are all newly licensed, you're welcome to join that. And then additionally, we've been reaching out to some of the key licensing boards over the past year, helping to educate them on this program as it rolls out and starting to talk about different solutions to some of the challenges that have been coming up. We've also been working in partnership with service center owners and operators to conduct legislator visits and really educational tours to peel back the curtain to show people what's happening and to show particularly key decision makers in the legislature what's happening behind the scenes of these service centers. And what we have coming up is really reaching out to the Healthcare Association Network and engaging them to prep them about what's coming for this bill. So why a psilocybin program improvement bill and legislation at this point? This is the first of its kind program. And while there has been an incredible job done by the OHA in setting the initial rules and the advisory board as well, and really standing up this program, it is going to be an iterative process. And we are trying to learn in real time. And I wouldn't be surprised if each year, there's a different version of this bill that just kind of retools and strengthens the program. Also, over the course of the rollout of this program, which has been about a year and a half now, there have been stakeholder identified challenges that can't be addressed in rule or need support in the legislation to be able to be changed. There's also been a few urgent safety concerns. And because of that urgency, we've decided to take a legislative path. But this really is about learning and incorporating best practices from other states and from the stakeholders on the ground. And also, there's just some things that actually require a law change that the OHA can't move on until something has been changed within the legislation. So the components of the program improvement bill that HAF has been working on, and we'll go through each of these one by one. But the first is license protections for healthcare providers. And dual licensure. This is the big one. We initially thought that this would be the main thing in this bill, but as we were kind of crafting that, there were a few other issues that also rose to the surface as needing to be adjusted in law. The second one is psilocin, which is one of the active compounds in mushrooms, and we'll talk a little bit about labeling and conversations with facilitators and clients. Next is the advisory board. The advisory board was initially established really to help stand up the program and create the massive amount of rules that were established very early on, that and really thinking through each detail. But the kind of purpose and vision of the advisory board, now that the program's up and running, can kind of look a little different since those initial rules were created by them. And the last one is really an issue of client confidentiality. And we'll talk a little bit about the complaints process through the OHA and how we're going to kind of align that with other similar type of boards throughout the state. So the first component of the bill. So the challenges that we've been hearing are, number one, providers are scared to discuss this with their clients, and these are providers outside of psilocybin services. They're not a part of the OPS, Oregon Psilocybin Services Program under the OHA, but they're concerned, and their clients are coming to them wanting to have conversations. And we've heard from clients that their MDs or their therapists are saying, I'm scared to even talk about this because of fear of losing my license because I don't know where my board stands on this. One of the other challenges is facilitators are currently prohibited by rule from bringing any other skills from another license to their work. So you can imagine if you've been a therapist for 20 some odd years and you become a licensed facilitator under this program, you're supposed to fully take off your hat as a therapist and put on your licensed psilocybin facilitator hat. And we've heard from folks that this is not only challenging, but sometimes kind of impossible to separate the two because it's so baked into how they converse with people. The impact that this has had on the program is that there's a fear of engagement, both in terms of providers outside of the system, but also less people who have dual license participating in the Oregon Psilocybin Services Program. This has also limited client screening options. If you go to your primary care physician and you want to talk about this and the medical risks associated, again, if that person is unwilling or unable to have a conversation with you, that impacts your ability to be able to make informed consent. And it really narrows the amount of providers who are willing to help screen clients. And overall, this is leaving a lot of highly trained healthcare providers out of the OPS system, and clients who are interested in engaging their existing providers may not end up moving forward with psilocybin services if they can't get those providers to engage with them. So our proposal for dual licensure is twofold. First, and this is something that we learned from the Colorado program, is they have baked into the Colorado law protections for healthcare providers to discuss psilocybin therapy with their patients. So we are proposing that this also be included in Oregon law, that that providers can simply discuss this. It is not a referral program. It is not a prescription. No prescription is required for psilocybin services. So it's really just allowing a conversation to happen between a provider and their patient. The second part of this is to allow healthcare professionals who are licensed psilocybin facilitators, so they've already gone through the licensed facilitator program and training programs through the state or approved by the state, to be able to utilize their healthcare experience specifically in the preparation and integration of psilocybin services. And when we say preparation and integration, those are really the bookends of this system, and the administration session will still remain non-directive. We thought that was really important, but the kind of the therapeutic bookends to help set intention and kind of make sense of the experiences. Individuals who hold multiple licenses or dual licenses will be able to bring their skills to those, and those sessions will no longer be non-directive. Again, the administration session will remain non-directive, especially since someone is under the influence and it is more of an inward journey. But for those bookends, that is our proposal to make it so that you can bring your skills to those areas of this work. The licensing boards that we've reached out to are the ones stated up here. We've been updating them on the program overall, and these are the ones, and specifically, these are the folks that for the preparation and integration session that the dual licensure will really be focused on. The second component of this bill is psilocin. So the current challenge is Psilocin is 40% stronger than psilocybin, and both can be contained in mushrooms that are grown within Oregon's program. Um, Psilocin does degrade faster, and the rate of degradation is currently unknown. And not all mushrooms initially have psilocin. Psilocybin is actually converted into psilocin in the body, but sometimes if you're at a service center and you're about to undergo psilocybin services, you may buy a mushroom product that includes both psilocybin, but also a significant portion of psilocin in it. Currently, under Oregon's program, the labeling of psilocin is not required. It is not calculated into the potency calculation. And so clients oftentimes will have no idea if psilocin is in the mushrooms that they're about to consume. And so what we are proposing is two straightforward solutions here. Number one, the required labeling of psilocin. Psilocin is already required to be tested as part of the testing lab protocol here. So there's no additional cost on that side. And then the second part of it is for the facilitator and client to have a conversation on the potential increased potency of the product if it has psilocin in it. Again, not all of the products have psilocin, but there are certain methods of preserving the mushrooms that tend to have higher levels of psilocin. And so we at least want the client to be able to go in understanding that there may be a higher potency because their product actually includes psilocin from the start. The third part of our proposal has to do with the advisory board. So I just want to first and foremost say that the psilocybin advisory board has done an incredible, thoughtful job of standing up this program. They were in the weeds for over 2 years in building the framework and structure of this program and have just really built an incredible program. And it was really initially established and outlined for the creation of the program rules, that 2-year rulemaking period. The original outline of who needed to be on that was highly prescriptive because, again, they were establishing the baseline of the program rules. Originally, when the advisory board structure was mapped out, there was also no dedicated seats for providers because there were no providers. Obviously, now that the program has been up and running for going on 2 years, that's a challenge that there's no dedicated seats for providers. So our proposal is really to bring the advisory board size and structure more in line with similar boards throughout the state. So one of the first changes, though, is to have dedicated seats to people who are doing the work on the ground to make sure that the advisory board is informed by real life practices and understanding of how the program is actually working. And so there would be 2 seats dedicated for service providers, one for a service center operator or owner, and the second for a licensed facilitator. We've also are looking to shrink the board down to 9 seats, but to have broader categories so that more people can kind of apply for the individual seats that are available. The last part of the program improvement bill has to do with confidentiality in complaints. So the current challenge in the process is complaints are public records requestable right now. And this flies in the face of best practices from licensing boards or domestic violence centers in terms of encouraging people to report bad actors or people who violate the rules. It's a major challenge. It could also lead to retribution if people can find out who you are and then try to work outside of the complaints process. So our proposal is to just bring this process in line with all the other licensing boards throughout the state. So it would allow for confidentiality during the investigation process. Once, if there has been something that has been determined at the end of the process, then that may become public information. And additionally, since licensing boards, and speaking of specifically healthcare licensing boards, are now going to be allowed to have people who have dual licenses, it will also allow for the sharing of information specifically around investigations between the OHA and licensing boards as it's relevant. For the timeline of the bill, so we submitted a legislative concept at the end of September. And by mid-December, the legislature should return draft bill language to the Healing Advocacy Fund. And we will need to file the bill by the end of December. The bill will be published publicly on the legislature website in January of 2025. And February 5th of 2025, the legislative session kicks off. It will go until the end of June. During that period, it will go through multiple committees. There will be hearings on this, public comment. And we hope to have this bill passed by June of 2025. For most of the components in the bill, particularly dual licensure, the OHA will do rulemaking in the fall of 2025. And we hope to see dual licensure and those protections active as of January 2026. So it's about 1 year out if you're a person who's dually licensed or hopes to be dually licensed, that this will be codified in state law. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to reach out to me directly at Heidi@healingadvocacyfund.org. Thank you all for watching and take care.